Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Irving Fields.
My first impressions of him were he's just this really funny musician who wants to have a good time.
He's very witty. He has a lot of humor.
God, first impressions, cute. So cute. He's so cute. He really is. And just so sweet and genuine.
I mean, honestly, I think he's a little bit full of shit. Like, there's a part of him that's completely full of shit, in that he's like been a performer his whole life, and just he's constantly on, you know? He's always in front of an audience. He's always trying to charm you.
Meeting him, he seemed like a showman. You know, he seemed like a guy who has an act.
But that full of shitness is also like, he's lived it so much that I think he honestly is trying to charm you. He wants to be friendly. He likes people to get along and have a good time.
How do you describe Irving's music? I don't know. I mean, it's such a range of different things.
Irving Fields is the last representative of the Chico Marx school of piano playing. And he represented an element of music which was partly called society music, this novelty Latin stuff, Miami Beach rumba. Yeah, bum bum bing, bum 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 bum, and it was for like a Jewish middle-class audience in the late 1940s. And he was pretty famous. He was the Irving Fields Trio. As far as Fields is concerned, he played with a trio. He played with a bass and a drum. And he played all these little melodies with these tricky little classical references.
He also combines the spirits of various musical genres, of various musical styles and trends.
Many people have asked me about my arrangements. How do I make my arrangements? What style? I cannot understand it myself, except that to me, the piano is an orchestra. In other words, let's take the violin. A violin can only play one note at a time. A trumpet, one at a time. All these instruments. But the piano can play many notes at one time. So I feel the piano is an orchestra, and I like to make my arrangements like a symphony orchestra is playing it. The high notes are the flutes, the low notes, the bass, the violins, the harps, and so you have a sound, 45 trumpets. So you can do many things with the piano. Give it humor, give it passion, give it feeling, give it romance. So you can do so many things with it.
To me, he is like that piano. He is an orchestra in terms of language, in terms of style, in terms of trend.
To me, Irving is this kind of quintessential American musician of sort of mid-20th century, first part of the 20th century, and then through it. He does, of course, the sort of cocktail lounge music, jazz favorites, Broadway favorites, popular favorites, classical music. He's really like, he can play anything. You can go up to him and ask him to play you anything.
I started as a classical pianist, and then I heard a combination of classical and jazz. The orchestras of Andre Castellanos, Morton Gould, Meredith Wilson, and I said, this is great. They take jazz and they give it a classical touch. They give it elegance. They give it an arrangement. They give it wow. They make a classic out of a popular selection. I love this. Take a popular song, give it classical feeling. And so I fell in love with this type of music, and I played that style.
as his original compositions, obviously there's the Bagels and Bongos stuff, which blends Jewish melodies with Latin rhythms, which is, I guess, his biggest claim to fame.
Bagels and Bongos. You made this melody cruise to Israel, so you've already started. You've fused already in your mind Jewish music.
I'll tell you what happened, how it started, right? Now, I'm playing in Boston at the Sherry Biltmore Hotel. I get a request, please play some lovely Jewish music. And suddenly, I get another note, and it says, could you please play dance music? They have a dance floor, and you play nice dance music. So I told my drummer and my bass player, I says, let's put the Jewish music into a Latin tempo. Let's play this as a rumba. I played it as a rumba. They were dancing and listening. So I said, gee, this works so beautifully. So I went into a studio the next day, and I got about 14, 15 beautiful Jewish songs, and I did it in rhythms of rumba, samba, merengue, cha-cha-cha, passe doble, all the Latin rhythms. So I took this master I made, I went to Decca Records. They listened to it, and for 5 minutes, silence. And suddenly, Decca Records executive says, we love it, we're going to take it, we want it right now. And within a month, it sold all over the world. Bagels and Bongos LP.
This other stuff, the Melody Cruise stuff, it's really eclectic. I hear a lot of Jewish influence in what he does, big time. Certainly in the inflections and the ornamentation, the way he plays a certain melody, it's got a real Jewish sound. That said, I don't think it's not like he ever immersed himself in klezmer music or anything like that.
Tell us the Yiddish, the particularly Yiddish influences you had growing up.
In those days, the Jewish theater thrived with all kinds of wonderful Jewish shows. They had shows like My Fair Lady in Yiddish. The show I was in was a show called The Galiciana Chasana, the Galician Wedding. And I was very much influenced by the beautiful Jewish music I was surrounded with. And I took to it, and I tried to put the same feeling that when people sing this type, that little cry in the voice to make the piano sound like that. And I blended it into my arrangements in the Jewish music. And it has a wonderful feeling. It's a little trick I do on the piano. And so Jewish music was very important and still an important part of my life and my music.
No, I wouldn't consider him to be klezmer music at all. Even the instrumental tunes he plays are not really the dance tunes. They're much more, he takes Yiddish theater tunes and early Israeli material and other stuff like that to draw from repertoire.
Irving is one of these piano players who figured out a Jewish way to play piano. So he uses these, Jewish, call them dreidlach, these like Jewish ornaments in his playing, and he demonstrated that a little bit the other day here. He uses these little dreidlach, these things just like a clarinet player would do, and he does it on the piano, which is unusual. But my guess is that when piano players played Jewish, if they played solos, they probably all had their way of doing that. Irving maybe did it more than most people because he had more work and maybe had more requests for Jewish music. Would I consider what he plays klezmer music? I mean, it depends on how you define klezmer music. I mean, anybody who, as far as I'm concerned, anybody who wants to say that they play klezmer music plays klezmer music. It's not really something that has boundaries that are that clear to me. If the question is Irving Field a klezmer in kind of the old sense, I would not think of him that way at all.
Even if people hated how he plays and think it's not really klezmer and it's sort of kitsch and all this stuff, first of all, he's clearly a master musician. I mean, you can't deny that he just rules on the piano. Just how he plays is unbelievable. So even if you don't like it or you do like it, whatever, it just got people to talk about like just how to deal with this world that we're living in as people trying to make Jewish music in a mainstream context, or just how to deal with your Jewish identity.
I think Irving added to KlezKanada this year a whole thing that's never been here, which is, it was interesting. Josh asked him the question, did Jewish music die in the 50s and 60s? And his very instant response was no. What are you talking about? I mean, we do know that klezmer music kind of died out in the 50s and 60s, and there's a kind of revivalist mentality within this scene, as there has been for 30 years. As far as Irving's concerned, it never died. Nothing ever died. That music always remained, and it was just part of the vocabulary of music that he was drawing from.
I like the fact that he added an American Jewish perspective to the KlezKanada experience, because I think that's really an important part of the history of Jewish folk music, is the American, the American era. And it was nice to have a featured guest here who really represented that.
Toodaloo, sing with me, merci beaucoup. Toodaloo, toodaloo. Everyone chante. Now were you on the wrong side of the bed when you arose? Did a leaky fountain pen redecorate your clothes? Did you buy a ticket when you could have entered free? Let's do what they do. Everybody go chante, chante, sing the Paris song. Chante, chante, everybody sing along. Let's all sing when the little thing goes wrong. That toodaloo, toodaloo, sing merci beaucoup, toodaloo, toodaloo. Everyone chante. That's it.
He's hilariously driven still at 91. Like, he's still trying to get that gig and get that paycheck, and he's coming up with projects all the time. He's so inspired.
I think there's a mistake in my birth certificate. I don't know. I got to check it out. 91 years. I feel 91 years young. My secrets of longevity. A sense of humor is very important. And whatever you want to do, never wait till tomorrow. Do it now. And you know something? If music was a religion, there would never be any wars. Think about that.
He's so old that he's in his own little world. So whatever age you are, he's like a creature from another planet. So if you're young or old, he's still from this other planet. So it's fascinating.
Yes, I do think he appeals to all age group. I happen to know that he has done children's music and does children's concerts.
With age, it works just the same way as it works with genres, styles, and languages. He's above any kind of ageism, as well as he is above any kind of ethnical, stylistic, or linguistic border.
He's very engaging and entertaining. So in other words, if somebody came into the restaurant, if it was all kids in the restaurant, he'd just play some rock and roll for them, and he'd freak them out, because they'd say, well, how come this 91-year-old guy knows all these tunes?
Irving definitely would appeal to all age groups. I think he's the kind of guy that I could see being great with children, as well as, I think he's able to adapt to his audience no matter what it may be.
Got any jokes for us?
My father arranged for me to play in a nursing home. Well, there's people there, right? And after my concerts, I went over to a little old lady in the wheelchair, and I said, I hope you get better. And she said, you too.
His sense of humor is pretty accessible. It's like almost like it's pretty silly.
This is my pen name, like So Cold for Josh.
Why do they mention So Cold? What does that mean?
Josh, so DJ So Cold.
It's So Cold.
He calls himself.
In America, they don't say So Cold. They have a name. But this is So Cold.
Irving, how's the food here?
Very good, very tasty.
Oh yeah, it can be ridiculously silly, but then his repertoire is very sophisticated, and it's this weird old style of music that kids don't really know from, but he plays it in a way that's pretty accessible. You can listen to it, and no matter who you are, you can love it.
It's about getting people united, getting people together. That's what we are thankful to Irving Field.
He's a treasure. I think he's a real treasure.
What are we doing there? Is that a video? It's too early in the morning. So you're taking all this in? Could you send me a copy like it there? Did I say anything that I should not have said? Like certain words? Got to go back to New York. Had a great time here. Bye.
Good morning, Mr. Fields.
How are you?
Have a good trip. It was wonderful. Wonderful to meet you.
Any expression you want me to use, just let me know.
Okay. Great. Look here. Great. That's great. Just look at it. Terrific. How about a big smile? Okay. Now look here. Just look here. Very nice. That's great. Look here. Okay, Josh, I need you to lean back a bit. Yeah, more. Because you're able. No, you lean forward. That's great. Okay, Josh, not so serious. Okay, no, not like that.
How about shocked?
Shocked. Okay, very big. Okay.